bevo.com.
Perhaps we can start with the Dome, or as we call it now, the O2.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, that was a very bold move. It hadn't really worked for anybody before you. But you went into the board 3 times. I understand that they discouraged you from doing it pretty heavily 3 times, but you still went ahead anyway. So strategically, why was it so important to you, and how did you know it was going to work?
So if I tell you a bit of the story about how we came about sponsoring the Dome to call it the O2, AEG contacted us. They're the company that had actually bought it from the government and were going to run it. And we got involved with them and really looked at their plans for the venue. Now, the plans for the venue we thought were pretty exciting. We thought it was a chance to really be the rebirth of the venue, of the Dome. But clearly it was a bit of a risk because 2 or 3 people had an attempt at turning the Dome into a successful venue and clearly failed. So actually we did some research into AEG. We looked at some of their venues in the US. We talked to their partners in the US. And we started to get quite excited about them as a partner and what they could actually do with the Dome. But then the question for us was, what would we do within our business model once it became the O2? How would we make it a real success for us? And we really used our experience that we'd had both with Arsenal, because we'd sponsored Arsenal, and with the England rugby team. And what we always do with any sponsorship is we don't just badge something. Actually, what we do is we bring customer experience, customer benefits. So the key thing for us on the O2 was, were AEG going to give a great customer experience and deliver the customer experience we would want to, because people going would assume it was us delivering the customer experience. But also, what could we bring to our customers? And the key insight we had there was priority tickets. That's the real value for us. So if whoever is playing at the O2, whether it's Madness or whether it's Whitney Houston or whether it's Beyonce, what happens is our customers can buy tickets 48 hours before the general public. That was part of the agreement we made with AEG. And we've now implemented that. We're actually on TV now, funnily enough, advertising it, because we've proved through customer research and customer insight that any customer that's aware of that benefit is 15% less likely to leave us. So we get great media benefit from it being called the O2 and great events and great customer experience, but we also bring benefits directly to our customers as a result of that sponsorship.
Did you come up with that vision for the O2? Was it introduced to you, or, for example, how would you actually come up with that? Because it's a brilliant plan and it's obviously worked.
Yeah. Have a brilliant team around you is the first thing to say. I mean, my marketing director, who's a brilliant lady, really pushed it through our UK board, because we were coming to the end of our Arsenal sponsorship, and I remember we were in Leeds, cold winter day, and she said, got an idea, I think we should do a deal and sponsor the Dome. And of course, tumbleweed rolling across the boardroom at that point. Why the hell would we want to do that? And she started actually to get us excited about it. We met the guys from AEG. Funnily enough, I actually went to an Arsenal-Chelsea game with them, and I'm a big Chelsea supporter. And you get to know somebody when you're in a different environment, what they're like as a human being, as well as a businessman. We then did a couple of visits. One of the key things for me was I did the journey from my house. So I went from Beaconsfield to the O2 in North Greenwich. Would I be prepared to do that journey to go and see Spandau Ballet? Absolutely, I would. Yeah. Then what we did was spoke to people that knew the business, because we don't know we're not an entertainment or an events business. So actually, I spoke to a couple of people that I knew in the music business, asked them about the venue, what they thought, would bands play it, how the economics would play, and from that we started down the road with AEG.
Fantastic. And so when that person was because you're the chief executive, so you really, Matthew Key's got a brand, O2's got a brand, that could have been put at risk with one decision with the O2. So how did you intuitively straight away get it, or?
It took a while, but once I intuitively got it, I got it.
Then you got it, right.
And you're right, we were still quite a young brand at this stage, O2, and there was a danger to O2 that we'd be associated with the next people to fail at the White Elephant. Right. Which was a risk for us. But you have to look at any sort of deal like that with upside and downside. What was the potential upside and what was the potential downside? Now, The cost of the contract was a lot of money, but the amount it was going to cost us compared to the value of the brand, it wasn't the cost of the contract that I was worried about. It was actually the potential risk to the brand.
Right.
But instinctively, I thought there was something in it. And once I really got to understand what we could try and do with it, I got more and more excited. And actually, as you say, I then went to the board, to the O2 PLC board as it was then. And you're right, I vividly remember sitting in a board meeting presenting this, and somebody from the board said, "So do you want an answer?" And I said, "Yes, please." And they said, "Well, the answer's no." And I said, "Well, I'm not accepting no. I'm coming back until you say yes." That was quite a risky move for me.
Yeah.
At the time, I was relatively new in as CEO, but I'm glad I pushed for it, because we now look back, and what a fantastic venue it's become. As you said, the most visited entertainment venue in the world. Great brand halo for us as O2, but also more importantly, as explained, tangible benefits to our customers, which is what we're all about.
So for lessons for other executives that are watching this, or even chief executives that wanted to go to the board with something equally risky per se, albeit obviously weighed up, what would be the lessons there? Is it conviction or?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about when we were branding it or doing the sponsorship was very difficult to prove mathematically whether it was going to be a good business case or not. I mean, I'm a chartered accountant by training.
Yeah, you're the CFO for O2.
I was the CFO,
right.
Yeah. And so could I do a spreadsheet that said, here's the amount of money we're going to make? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you have to look at your overall business model and what you're trying to do. And we had a very clear strategy at O2 that we were trying to be more than just a company that people made calls on the network and made texts on the network. We were trying to create a relationship with our customers that went beyond the basic product. If you believe in your strategy, you have to really understand how you're going to deliver your strategy. And this, for me, was a potential key element in our strategy. I wasn't financially betting the house on it. The brand, yes, there was a risk on the brand, but actually we felt, and it was we as in a board, felt that the potential upside more than outweighed the potential downside. Once you've reached that point, trust your instinct, because it's a lot of business decisions around instinct. You can show me a spreadsheet that will prove something or prove something else. Instinctively, do I think it's right? And you only get some of that with experience, and some of it, I think, is a bit about your personality. Fine line between self-confidence and arrogance. If you're arrogant, you've gone too far and you won't see the downside or hear other people's opinions. If you're self-confident, actually you have to back your judgment. And I think a self-confident CEO and a very clear leader as a CEO will point a business in a direction, and the business will get behind that leader.
Yeah. So conviction is certainly what you had, because you went back 3 times, and as a relatively new CEO to the board, that takes a lot of conviction. After you've got that intuitive light bulb go off inside you, then you go for it.
Absolutely.
You stick with it.
Absolutely.
But you also mentioned sort of congruency with customer experience and brand values. So to what extent does the O2 actually represent some ways the brand values of both you, potentially Matthew Key as the chief executive, and also of the O2 brand?
Well, our brand values are bold, open, trusted and clear. That's how we try and live our life in O2. That's what the business is about, that's what the employee experience should be about, and that's what the customer experience should be about. Now, clearly, branding the O2 was quite a bold move, very bold. As far as the openness is concerned, for us and our customers, what we really try and do is be very clear about the customer experience they're going to get at any point they touch O2, whether that's voice or text, or whether it's on the O2. So on the priority ticketing, we're very clear, you get 48 hours before the public to buy these tickets. But once our priority allocation has been sold, then it's been sold. So you have to be open with people as far as the experience you're actually going to give them.
Do you actually measure the sort of how well you're incorporating and living the values that you just mentioned internally within your organisation? I mean, do you have a sort of a scorecard or a measurement system to make sure you're actually living it?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most important things about us running our business is how we engage with our employees. So in the UK, I do not deliver the customer experience. right?
Right.
I could have the best strategy in the world, the best implementation in the world, but it's the guys that are in the shops every day and it's the guys that are in the call centres every day that actually are talking to customers.
Yeah.
So unless I get the people on the front line understanding what we're trying to do and understanding the products, we won't deliver the best customer experience.
Right.
So, and that interestingly also goes, if I go back to the O2, for our partners. So it's really important that the staff at AEG who run the O2 understand what we're trying to do for our customers and deliver that customer experience. And I think they've absolutely got it at the O2. So a huge amount of our time goes into communicating with our employees. What's our strategy? How are we going to deliver the strategy? And what do we want you to do as part of delivering that strategy to the customer? And if we can do that, actually we've got a chance of delivering a great customer experience. Do we get it right every time? No, we don't. Unavoidably, we don't. We have so many customer interactions that sometimes we'll get it wrong. But when we get it wrong, recognise you get it wrong, put the learning into practice in the business, but also say to the customer, we got it wrong. We did get it wrong. We'll actually make it up to you some way.
You've had an organisational success with the O2, so, but then you've had the confidence again to roll out that success internationally. So you've taken it obviously to the O2 in Dublin, the O2 World in Berlin, and the O2 Arena in Prague. So you're not afraid of rolling out the successes. So what piece of advice would you give to other chief execs that are wanting to roll out successes internationally?
So the first thing I would say is, if you're going to roll out something to other countries or a concept to other venues, make sure you know it's a success where you've started. Because there's no point rolling something out to other countries if it's not going to work. The second thing is, don't impose it on the in-country management. The in-country management have to vote with their feet and want to do it. So if I turned up in Dublin and said to our Irish CEO, I want you to go and find an O2 because it will be the best thing for you, it will be Matthew Key's idea. It got to be O2 in Ireland's idea to do something like the O2 that we've done in London, in Dublin. And we have, and we've opened it, and we've proved that the customer experience and the customer benefits we delivered in London, we're delivering in Dublin. And our Irish customers are now 15% less likely to leave us, just like the O2 UK customers were. So make sure the in-country CEO or business absolutely wants to do it. The third thing I would say is, not everything will work in every country, and particularly if you're working through a partnership model. So it just happens that we're partners with AEG who run the O2 in London, in Berlin, but we're not partners with AEG in Dublin or Prague because different companies happen to own the best venues in those two countries. So pick your partners very carefully and make sure you've got the right partner with the right capability.
Bevo.com